everyone, and welcome to today's DataVox webinar, Consolidate and Control Your Data with the Unbeatable Combo, presented by Cisco and Cohesity. My name is Jessica, and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this webinar through Cisco WebEx events, and the audio can be heard through your PC or by calling into the phone number listed and with the access code provided in your confirmation email or calendar invite for this event. Today's webinar is being recorded on behalf of DataVox, and participation in this event indicates your consent to being included in that recording. All attendees will receive an email with the link to the completed recording 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you have questions for the presenter at any time during this presentation, you may submit those questions via the Q&A feature to the bottom right of your screen. This should already be turned on. Simply click Q&A and the text box will appear. We encourage you to utilize this feature throughout the presentation, as we will be responding to your questions in the Q&A chat as well as verbally at the end of the presentation. If you are in need of support or have a question not pertaining to today's topic, please utilize the chat feature and I will be happy to assist you. This feature is separate from the Q&A feature and can be turned on by clicking the chat bubble in the lower center of your screen. Now that we have reviewed the features of this webinar, I would like to introduce you to our Data Center Solutions Architect, Kyle Sandoval. Kyle, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on this webinar that we have going on this afternoon. DataVox has been a partner with Cisco for a very long time, and we've built a relationship with Cohesity over the last 3 years. Both of these products have changed our customers' environments. The HyperFlex that we'll be talking about today is built upon the market-leading UCS platform. It carries with it some of the experience and knowledge that they have built into the UCS platform. It gives you the flexibility to easily grow and expand your environment. Based on the UCS platform, it's very easy to configure, profile-based, and the platform makes it very easy for care and feeding. As far as Cohesity, Cohesity has been one of the products that has been very exciting for our customers over the last 2 years. I will say that this has changed how our customers are doing data protection. Some of the features that it has built into it, the capabilities to do an instant mass restore of multiple VMs and run that on it while it's moving workloads back over, the capabilities that it has to do massive restores of file. If you look at a hyperconverged platform, typically file or unstructured data is not something that you want to put on the higher performing platform like Cisco HyperFlex. However, Cohesity is a really good complementary package because it'll allow you to also not only back up your data and protect it, utilizing integrations with Cisco's HyperFlex features, but it'll also allow you to take that secondary data and put it on it and greatly reduce your restore time when we start talking about a ransomware attack that has taken out 5, 10, 50 terabytes of data. Cohesity makes it very simple to restore that amount of data in a matter of seconds, so that you can start scanning that data to look for any anomalies. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is hand it off to Dave Martin, who will kind of go over the HyperFlex features and functionality, and then we'll look at Steve Connor to look at Cohesity and what it can bring to the table.
Thanks, Kyle. This is Dave Martin. This is Dave Martin with Cisco. I'm a data center specialist covering Texas, Oklahoma. And that intro was awesome. Really, it leads into kind of what we were thinking when we initially designed our hyperconverged solution and what we're trying to allow this solution to grow into. The market is really starting to move away from a centralized data center. So even the word data center is becoming a little bit outdated. In the third and now even fourth generation data centers, we have to really look at an expansion of that model. Something that's going to incorporate not only an on-premise data center, something that will be referred to as private cloud, that'll include co-location and multiple data center locations. But we also have to realize that hybrid and public cloud are going to become an ever-increasing reality within almost everyone's data center environment. And we have to provide a solution that allows for the capability to be able to expand and come back onto and off of those clouds as necessary. But the most exciting aspect of this is the expansion to the edge, with new solutions like IoT that are going to require machine learning and artificial intelligence. Once we gather that information, the ability to turn that into actionable pieces is going to require extensions of the data center, even out to the remote edge. So having a solution that's able to encompass all of those really is what we talk about when we say HyperFlex Anywhere. Our solution is purpose-built and truly is the only all-encompassing hyperconverged solution on the market today, including data center networking, including compute, and including storage that can expand up and out, optimized for the new needs of this data center environment. So as we move into HyperFlex Anywhere, let's talk about where we've come from. Our hyperconverged solution is going to encompass all of the checkmark boxes. We support every major hypervisor. We have the ability to do stretch cluster and high availability. We're the only company right now that's shipping an all Intel Optane-powered NVMe solution, which is really going to lead into some of the performance gains that I'm going to demonstrate here. We have a complete software suite of cloud-based management tied into not only ongoing cloud management, including both private and public cloud, but also optimization techniques that really allow you to be able to isolate and identify performance issues on or off of the cloud and always have a working intelligence to be able to help you get the most optimal solution available. We have significant customer install and we're growing. So all of the traditional use cases apply: test and dev, VDI, server virtualization, but we also include databases and enterprise class apps, again, as well as remote branch office and edge. We are in the Gartner leadership quadrant, and the reason for that is because we're the fastest. I challenge anyone to take our solution in a bake-off against any other hyperconverged solution in the market on real applications, Oracle database, Microsoft SQL Server, even mixed workloads. We're faster. The other piece is that we're also more reliable because our solution is able to control the network at a significantly more granular level. We're going to give better expectation of virtual machine performance across the entire stack. When we get into this Anywhere solution, now that we've talked about where we've come from for traditional hyperconverged, I think it's important to note the things that we're doing different from our competition. The first is going to be hypercloud stacks. This allows us to be able to extend on-premise Kubernetes development environments that look, act, and feel exactly like Amazon or exactly like Google's cloud experience. Our edge deployment is going to be unique in the industry because it's going to allow us to put a footprint of only 2 nodes at a remote branch, but still give the full redundancy of a 3-node configuration. Beyond that, we have a cloud-based management application called Intersight that enables us the ability to reach down and see servers, whether it's traditional UCS, hyperconverged, on-prem, off-prem, at the edge. This enables us the power to be able to have proactive guidance, to know when there are going to be imminent failures, to have automatic tap cases called up when memory or disk need replacement, and the ability to be able to do one-click upgrades at those remote branches. But the most powerful and important piece of the HyperFlex Edge is the extension of the ability to support full redundancy, a third virtual server in the cloud with only a 2-node configuration, allowing us the ability to have significantly reduced licensing costs and a much lower cost of being able to put these solutions out at the edge without sacrificing any performance. All of our validated designs around NVIDIA for the ability to do artificial intelligence and machine learning still completely apply. Also, the one-click upgrade completely applies in this circumstance as well. We're also integrating a solution with Turbonomic called Intersight Workload Optimizer. This is that intelligence level that allows us to be able to constantly look at what your network is doing and what your systems are doing and be able to offer you optimization techniques to always look for ways to be able to get more from not only what you're doing on premise, but what you're doing in the cloud. The cloud can be an inexpensive and cheap place to sit, but it can often be a very expensive and complicated place to live. If you're looking to get justifications on how and when it's better to pull in production applications back onto premise so that you can control your costs and your scalability a little bit more granularly, there's no better way to do that than with this optimizer. We also, again, want to reinforce that if you need to provide on-premise development development-like experience. For Amazon or for Google, we have the support for that today. This allows you the ability to do your own development in-house and be able to move development onto and off of the cloud ubiquitously. A big differentiator between what the cloud providers are offering in their on-prem solutions. Ironically, their solutions really only like to transfer the information one way, and that's into their cloud. Make no mistake, they're only making money if you're using their service. We also are announcing the HyperFlex application platform. This gives us the capability to offer a Kubernetes development environment bare metal. So if you want to be able to scale your containerization of applications without having to put them in virtual machines and continue to pay that V tax, we have a solution that's going to enable you the ability to really have complete control of how you're doing development without having to pay a significant, unnecessary tax to VMware. Our ecosystem environment couldn't be stronger. We have partnerships up and down the stack from enterprise-class apps to every hypervisor to every container, as well as most of the up-and-coming machine learning and artificial intelligence software applications with validated designs by those software companies on our platform. We offer a shared support structure with anyone that does a validated design, so you've got one phone call to make if you've got any of those issues. We have an IDC report that demonstrates not only our performance, but specifically how you can get a return on your investment. And in many cases, especially when you compare not only the efficiencies of scale that HyperFlex provides, but the powerful combination with Cohesity, we can prove that usually in less than 12 months, this solution can often pay for itself. The one thing I just want to leave you with here is you don't just want a hyper-converged solution that's handling the needs of your data center today. What you need is a solution that looks out for what you need in your core, what you need in the cloud, and what you need at the edge. A solution that you can grow into and not out of. The last thing that I will leave you with is that within the next 60 days, the next version of Intersight is going to open up our secondary storage API. This is going to allow for Cohesity's management to plug directly into our cloud-based Intersight, and that is going to make what is already an unbelievably powerful combination for primary and secondary storage that much easier, because you're going to have a single cloud-based management system for it all. And with that, I will pass this over to my good friends at Cohesity.
Good deal. Afternoon. Can you stop sharing, bud, and I will share my screen. There we go. All right. Jessica, will you let me know when you can see my screen?
Yes.
Good deal. Well, good job, Dave. That's difficult to follow. It's almost like competing with a radio talk show host. So I'm not gonna be able to be as animated, but hopefully the content is no less valuable. Appreciate it. So I'm Steve Connor, Regional Sales Manager, co-managing the sales here in Houston, Southeast Texas. Appreciate the time today. I thought the best thing to start with, and I'll be brief, we're kind of on record pace here as far as the timing goes, but maybe pause for 1 second and make sure everyone is comfortable or understands kind of what we do and where we fit. First of all, we're a software-defined solution that runs on UCS. Cisco is a strategic investor, have a number of great relationships, success stories between the organizations and especially with our top partner here in Houston, DataVox. But first, it's better to kind of understand where we are before we get into what is SmartFiles, why does it matter, and why does it matter with the three companies that are presented today. First, a lot of times you see that in the hyperconverged infrastructure space, the correlation from an infrastructure perspective to the iPhone, and really the best correlation for us is likely Google. And so you think about what Google did. First, they consolidated all the data in the internet with GFS, and they ran it on commodity scale-out hardware. Then they figured out how to manage all that data across highly distributed data centers and clouds. They added applications and service on top of that, which leveraged underlying functions and provided, experiences like Maps and Translate and all the other applications. And really, why is that relevant? Well, our founder, it has the common DNA that he was one of the original developers on Google Distributed File System. Wants to bring that same value to the data center. So first you look at, we've taken a similar approach to data management by building a web scale platform, which we call Data Platform, right? And now we've consolidated all that data across the data center and cloud to deliver data protection, file and object for the NAS piece or SmartFile piece, and then we integrate all that with the cloud. That second management layer we call Helios. So, one UI to manage them all, a manager of managers that gives our customers a global view of their infrastructure, whether it's on-prem, remote site, in the cloud, and so on. And then lastly, think about what Google's done, but maybe go back to the iPhone and think about the fact that the iPhone application or platform is opened up for independent developers to develop apps to leverage and take advantage of the underlying infrastructure and data, and that's exactly what we've done. So you see some early adopters from Splunk, Amanus Data that we ended up buying, SentinelOne, and others. But now, why have all this additional infrastructure, all these different additional pieces, UIs, where you can manage it all directly on that infrastructure? So that, at the end of the day, is the goal. So how do we help you protect, control, and leverage your data with web scale infrastructure, agnostic from a hardware perspective, but definitely some benefits of why we worked really well with Cisco UCS. How do we provide integrated data protection? We're focusing on that third bullet today, which is talking about file and object, and then giving you the mobility to embrace public, private cloud, and leverage the apps that are associated. So what's the largest driver today that's kind of driving this conversation? And that's that Gartner's projecting 3x growth in unstructured data across the enterprise by 2024, and that was just from last year. So how are we going to manage that? Not just from a data growth perspective, but the storage costs, multiple storage silos, all the compliance, regulatory, security, and governance requirements, and what are we going to do from hybrid cloud, right? It's not an all or none. There's a lot of customers that we talk with that they're cloud first, and I'm hearing the new moniker more cloud smart. What makes the most sense? What makes more sense to stay on-prem, and how do I manage both of those, right? So using us as an extension in that vehicle to manage between the two makes a ton of sense. So let's talk about legacy NAS today. So first, traditional NAS often has, if not many of these, if not all the elements that I'll present. First, they've got applications and people that are accessing files across NFS and SMB protocols. They've got machines that read and write to object storage using S3, typically a separate object gateway is required, unless a whole separate object storage infrastructure is deployed for the machines. So likely that's separate. Then you've got a physical application infrastructure environment that's required to address several requirements, including AV compliance, analytics, data management, tiering, and so on. And then you've got, how are we going to get to the cloud? How are we going to access the cloud, right? So in summary, legacy NAS can require additional infrastructure cost, complexity, and so in an ideal world, Cohesity takes all of that, consolidates, and eliminates it. So first, how do we do it? We're going to try to give you a next-gen solution on UCS infrastructure, and first we're going to create a single platform that replaces both object and cloud. Data can be accessed across different protocols within a single platform. So that's number one. The external infrastructure supporting AV, compliance, analytics, data management, all of that can be collapsed and consolidated into our infrastructure and give you that simplicity of management. Will eliminate a lot of floor growth in the data center, help you consolidate, but also help you from a number of economic standpoints as well. And then the data platform, as a result, the benefit's going to be provided without additional hardware infrastructure. and give everyone access to that data as opposed to that previous more complex version that I showed, again, with providing automation around it. So just going into a couple of things that are likely relevant. Number one, freedom of choice. And we talked about hardware vendor lock-in, really location lock-in. I think that's even more important than having the ability to scale out nodes and not have the infrastructure, the version of infrastructure, the age of the infrastructure limit. We've got a number of customers across Houston that have 3 and 4 generations of hardware in the same cluster. And as they start to move more to the cloud, they've got portability of those licenses to move them out to cloud. So, one, future-proof from a software-defined flexibility, run anywhere, on-prem, cloud. There's no hardware lock-in from that perspective, so you can upgrade and scale and move as necessary. And that probably obvious from a freedom of choice and flexibility perspective. From compatibility, mixed workloads from Windows, Linux, Unix, hybrid cloud. You've got seamless data interoperability for those mixed workloads, native S3 API, so cloud and hybrid ready. And we've got unified file permissions, right? A lot of these NAS environments have multiple protocols, and typically they're managing more complex use cases. So that's something that's definitely delivered from a Cohesity perspective. Stress-free operation. So migrations are complex, automation's difficult. Multi-silos create challenges. So what we focus on is click and go ease and machine learning assistance. So how do we become smarter with managing the data? Data migrations are as easy as a backup, right? We go into some cases where the customer's like, I've got my backup. I don't want to talk backup. Don't mention backup. Let's talk about file. And they go, okay, how are we going to migrate our data to your platform? I'm like, well, first we're going to back it up, and then we won't talk about backup anymore. But that's definitely something we can provide from that perspective. Automated cold data tiering, there's a number of options there. That's back to that data mobility conversation we had a second ago. How do we protect it and make it mobile, and then leverage it and exploit the data with a number of applications? And then you've got easy automation from an API-driven perspective, depending on how granular you want to manage those pieces, and single-point management across hybrid mix environments, cluster sites, and clouds. Right. Integrated applications, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We've already talked about it. We've got a file ecosystem for apps that are integrated. That's antivirus, file audit, content search. A big part of what we do is very Google-like. We index everything we touch, and then we exploit that index based on the application that's going to be using it. So no file ecosystem silos, no additional infrastructure to manage it. Data-driven services and process are applied directly inside the infrastructure, and no more dark data. An easy example of dark data is typically if you're sending something to cloud for long-term archival, or the older version, you're sending it to tape. That data is not accessible, right? That data with us is all completely indexed. We have the ability to do individual file restores from wherever that data is located and managed. Cybersecurity could be a whole webinar in and of itself, but the main piece of it is if we own the data, if we've indexed the data, we have the ability not just to use the cybersecurity applications and features that are involved, but we also help from an integrated search perspective. If you think about modern day ransomware attacks, ransomware initiatives are smarter, right? So what we have the ability to do is how do we go in and find that executable where it's laying dormant, waiting for second, third, fourth rounds of security breaches. So it's not just applications, but it's the ability to index and have access to that data. We've already talked about Google-like search, so I will not belabor the point. And the low storage costs. So what we see a number of customers doing, mass data fragmentation is an issue, right? We've got a copy of data, like in the Splunk example, I've got to take a copy of all my production data. I've got to make it available to another application. Then I have to do that again for the next time I want to run those processes. You have the ability to run it directly on the infrastructure. But more importantly, from being data efficient, we've got sliding window variable dedupe, best-in-class compression from that perspective. Small file storage optimization, and we dedupe across all volumes, all workloads. So now giving you the ability to be extremely efficient with the way that you're managing the data and providing it back to the business. So that's going to be a lower TCO, but it also gives you the ability to look for use cases, which I'm going to get into in just a second, of where you can change the economics of the data center and the existing infrastructure. So this is not a complete eye chart, but I'm not going to read through all of it. But you know, the point is, roughly 50% of our business, especially in Houston, is NAS, and because of that file need, we have to have the same enterprise class file and object services that any of the name your legacy vendors have, right? So that's something that we hold very dear, and from an engineering-led perspective, we can deliver those services and compete with the best of them. And we've got multi-petabyte wins in Houston because of a number of the factors here that can be provided later by the DataVox team. Workloads, just a number of places that we're winning. You know, some of the obvious for, you know, digital archives, so, you know, file data content management. A big issue with SLED education space around video and surveillance video, but really any workload that isn't I/O or latency sensitive is a great place for us, and that gives you you know, a number of benefits. Most importantly, put data where it belongs, right? The cost per gig for us as a secondary storage solution is completely different than the economics for what production's currently sitting on. So use UCS and Cohesity to make that change. We're across every vertical, so no need necessarily to go in here, but just something to reference later. But from a compliance or specific vertical case, we're across every vertical and every market. And then finally, just a summary, right? So broad compatibility, you know, multi-protocol, integrated apps to run the business, integrated cybersecurity, not depending on others, you know, other solutions, external solutions to do that for you. Extremely space efficient from a dedupe and compression perspective. Hands-free, right? Stress-free operations, easy upgrades, non-intrusive upgrades, operations, adding, removing to the cluster, and then the Google-like search is one of the most valuable pieces that we provide to the customer. So I have sped through that to try to keep pace with the rest of the presenters, and I will open it up for questions at this point.
So Steve, we have a question regarding different node sizes. So can you deploy this into a small, medium, or large environment? What do node sizes look like with regards to the Cohesity solution?
Sure. So, you know, everything's a building block, right? So, you know, Kyle and team are excellent at helping from a sizing perspective. And then we start, you know, we can start with a software-defined solution with as small as a terabyte. But typically when we start talking not robo, but we're in the data center, we're going to start in 16 usable terabyte nodes, and we grow from there. So we can go from, you know, a 24 terabyte raw 220 M5 all the way up to a fully populated 3260. So 16 terabytes to multiple petabytes. There's no limit from a scale perspective. Our largest customer that our team was associated with, largest financial institution in North America, is over 2,000 nodes in an individual cluster right now. So really no limits from scale. But
fairly expandable.
Short answer, 16, 24, 36, 48, all the way up to the big 3260s.
Okay. One last question about centralized management across multiple sites. Can you manage multiple nodes across multiple sites with a single pane of glass?
You can, and that's Helios. That was the UI that I spoke with in the third slide, I believe. Yeah, but Helios is the manager of managers. That's your single pane of glass to manage everything.
Perfect.
And I'll add that that's going to be integrated with Intersight within the next 60 days via direct API. So while today you can do management of both the compute side and the Cohesity software side separately, within 60 days you'll be able to do the majority of that from a single interface.
Perfect. Dave, with regards to the UCS platform, one question came up. A current customer is using a UCS Fabric Interconnect. Can you plug the HyperFlex into that, or do you have to have the Fabric Interconnects in all scenarios?
No, you do need a Fabric Interconnect. However, if you have an existing Fabric Interconnect, the answer is yes with a caveat. There are very specific versions of code that support HyperFlex, so we would need to rectify what code was running on those Fabric Interconnects to make sure that they would be compatible with the current version of HyperFlex, as opposed to a much broader spectrum of code availability for general UCS. But if we can match what your traditional UCS environment needs with what hyperconverged requirements are, and I would say in 90–95% of use cases we can, you can absolutely utilize existing Fabric Interconnects. The only scenario where a Fabric Interconnect is not required for HyperFlex from Cisco is our Edge solution. So if you do want to put a 2-node configuration out of a remote site, you're allowed to either connect that to a Fabric Interconnect or to traditional Catalyst networking. Again, trying to keep the cost of ownership and the cost of entry for that type of solution at a bare minimum for the remote site. There is a maximum limit of 4 nodes for that HyperFlex Edge configuration. So it is a limited piece, but for organizations that just need a small point out at the remote site, it provides a much more cost-effective solution.
Perfect. Well, that's the Q&A session's questions that we have there. I'll hand it back over to Jessica to wrap up the session.
Thank you so much, Kyle, and thank you all for joining today's webinar. As a reminder, the recording link for today's session will be emailed all attendees 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you did enjoy today's session and would like to hear more, we do offer new webinars weekly. Please check our DataVox website for more information on upcoming sessions. And as always, we would love to hear your feedback on our events. Once this webinar has ended, you will be redirected to a survey page. If you could please take a moment to complete this survey before closing out your browser, we would greatly appreciate it. That concludes our session for today. Thank you to Dave and Steve for your time and great presentations, and thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.